Here's my audio.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hey, Cheryl. How are we doing?
Okay, how are you, Mike?
Oh, good. It's spring-like weather, right? Yeah.
I know. The doors and windows are open.
I know. And I hear rustling outside of animals. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's a great picture of Steve. Where is he?
Oh, we're about to find out.
There he is.
There he is.
Hi there.
Hi, Steve.
I'm in Cape Hatteras right this minute.
Oh my gosh. That's not fair.
Well, I'm making my way home, but our house is being renovated and we can't go back until Memorial Day. So we're sort of
Oh
doing
my.
our bucket list of way up. And my partner Ivan is a kiteboarder, and Cape Hatteras, in case you didn't know, is the kiteboarding capital of the East Coast.
I did not know that. Yeah. Does Ivan ever go out off the Lincolnville Beach Ferry Terminal area?
No, we go to Moose Point State Park.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because there used to be people, when it got really nasty and was blowing hard, they would take off from Ferry Terminal Beach and just head out and try to go to Mark Island or LaSalle or something like that.
We have never tried that. We have tried duck trap, but the problem is you have to be someplace where there are not a lot of trees, so your kite doesn't, like, because we live on McGonagall, and even when it's windy, you really can't go anywhere there because you have to have a clear. That's why Hatteras is so good, because of like Kitty Hawk. It's hundreds of miles of sand beach with no trees.
Okay.
So that's what you need. But I heard it's very warm in Maine today.
Well, it's too warm. We're all complaining.
What does too warm mean? What was it today?
Oh,
at home?
did it get into 70s? Is it in the 70s today? Wasn't it?
Wow.
I had 77 in Lincolnville.
Yeah. No need of it, right? So, David, is anybody else coming? Do we know?
I don't know of anyone not coming. Put it that way. Who are we missing? We're missing someone.
Gina?
Gina?
Gina.
Not here.
Is Jordan on this?
I don't know.
Thus far, Mike's been the only select person that's stepped up to say they'd be here.
Yeah. That's how I believe we left it. Yeah. So Jordan may be joining us at some point. I don't know. Yeah.
And Jay and John, I don't think we know each other.
Hi, yeah, I'm new.
Yeah, I'm new too, obviously.
So besides living in Lincolnville, what other interesting things can you tell me about yourselves?
You're on the spot.
Well, I'm engaged with the town quite a bit. I'm a treasurer of the library and on the library board and school committee, which was got some pretty hot meetings this year with opening and closing the schools and parents with their different opinions on Zoom. And what else? Budget committee and now broadband.
And do you have a special interest in broadband? Are you in the telecommunications business or?
Oh no, I'm on. I have the fiber optic with Lincolnville Communications, so I'm okay. But I've been watching SpaceX and their progress, and they're a lot faster than what I have at the same cost, and so I'm coming at it from that angle. Maybe some people that are far off the beaten track, to get them broadband in Lincolnville, it might be cheaper for them to use the satellites. Whereas people like in Lincolnville Center, they're right along the road. That'd be a quick and cheap hookup. So maybe I was thinking to evaluate that and find a mix of, those two different approaches to overall reduce the cost as much as we can for the community.
And Jay?
Yeah, I'm a software developer, so I'm of course interested in this topic. But I started dealing with the main broadband issue 25 years ago. I grew up in Turner, and that was served back then by Oxford County Tel and Tel, which was a little like Lincolnville telephone, little homegrown operation, which they did come along well. But now I had what was, I guess, the equivalent of their first home office situation, and they held out that there couldn't be a business and a residential situation in the same building, and they were trying to charge me double for business. And I had to get the main attorney general involved back then in order to make any sense of it. But so it's been a long road, and I have fiber here. I'm just off Youngtown Road, but which is good, but I feel it's too expensive.
So David, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can. I just
You
unmute
can
myself.
Okay, even though your mute light's on, you can hear me. That's right. So do you want to? Were you planning to run us through the charge? Was that the plan?
I'm going to follow your lead.
Oh, okay.
There's a few little, certainly housekeeping things for the benefit of everyone. I think everyone here, Cheryl was on before, and I assume will look to be on again, so we'll have to get her appointed. All the remainder of you have been. Excuse me. And let's see. Does everyone have a copy of the charge? Let's start with that.
Yes.
I think we sent it to everyone. That is, in essence, this is an ad hoc committee put together by the Board of Selectmen versus a standing committee that are called for in the town charter. The charge is supposed to outline who you are, what you do, when you're supposed to get it done, to feed them information upon which for them to make decisions and guide us forward in the broadband world. And for those of you that are or have been on the committee got started last year about the same time the pandemic got geared up and met remotely and provided the board with a report which made some recommendations, of which the board willingly took some, unwillingly accepted others. The whole thing's been kind of moving fast and furious around us, with us and without us at times. There's now the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition, which has been a group of towns that are working towards broadband solutions. Some of those towns are actually voting in June to create a nonprofit entity to move forward by an interlocal agreement. Not quite 100% sure how some towns got invited to be in round one or join up. I think there are 4 now: Camden, Rockport, Thomaston, maybe Rockland, Owl's Head, and South Thomaston, so it's more than 4. But there are a number of communities that are still participating, a little more on the periphery, but deeply involved, just not voting on joining the group here in June. And the selectmen thought that it would be beneficial to, in addition to that, we have 3 members on that. Steve's one. Jordan Barnett Parker and Josh Garrettson are the other two that are on that. The board thought it was also be advantageous to have a local broadband committee, either on the case that if something fell through with the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition, or if we needed a sounding board, or to kind of cast a little broader net, because ultimately, if we're going to do anything municipally wise, it's going to require a vote of the townspeople to move forward. And the bigger the net is to begin with, the easier it is to bring people on board, rather than just having something dreamt up by the board and then push forward. So that's kind of a brief and dirty overview of the recent history. Do you want me to, I assume if you all have the charge, you could read it, so I don't probably need to read it all to you again. It is going to be important at some point when you have everyone, you could do it tonight if you wanted to, for you folks to elect your leadership in terms of chair, vice chair, and secretary, and then to establish a future meeting schedule. I'm in hopes with some of the things that have been coming down or forth from guidance from the Maine CDC and the federal CDC, that at some point we'll actually be able to have in-person meetings, which may be inconvenient for those of you that are in Cape Hatteras.
No, I'm going to be
But
home.
certainly more convenient for some and for the public to meet in the office. So
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
Sound like
He says,
Dorothy, the Wizard
clicking
of
his
Oz.
heels together.
Exactly. I'm clicking my heels together. I'll be home.
So I haven't read the charge. Is that sitting in my email someplace, or is it on the town site, or?
It should be in your email somewhere, Jay, and if it's not, I just will scribble that down to make sure that we send it to you or send it to
Oh,
everyone.
it probably is there somewhere. I missed it.
It was in the invitation that he sent, that Dave sent last week as an attachment.
Okay.
I do think, though, it might be a good idea to just read it out loud so we all have it fresh in our minds, because it's very clear about what our responsibility is.
Yeah, David, we can do that, or so you could leave and have supper, or you can stick around and read it to us.
Whatever pleases the committee is what I'm here to help with. So you tell me, Mike. You're 1/5 of my boss. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. If you were to leave right now, we would still be able to talk amongst ourselves. You don't have to like.
Whoops, could you repeat that? Because you said if you were to leave right now, and then I think I lost the kind of froze.
Sorry. No, if you're not hosting the meeting, you don't have to stay here, do you? You can go. Will the meeting end if you walk away?
No, I can leave this on and
okay.
I can leave it running.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Is that what you'd like for me to do?
Well, Dave, you're more than welcome to stick around, but I thought maybe you might want to go.
Well,
have
it is a nice 77-degree evening. Okay, I will leave you to your own device.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have.
If I can help
I have
the committee at any point in the future.
I'm sorry.
I have it open here so I can read it. David doesn't need to stay just to read it.
Yeah, and I just found it in my email, so I do have it. Thanks.
Oh, good. Okay. So David, if you were to walk back to your room in a couple hours and you see a blank screen, it means we're done, and you could probably hit the off button, I would guess. Yeah.
I'll monitor you from afar. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. So we probably should go over that. And then Gina's not here, and I don't know what that means, but it would be nice if we were to, because if you notice, when we get into charge, some of it is time sensitive, dated from our first meeting. And so if we were to get some stuff done, like electing people, tonight and talk about a few things, we at least get started, right? No. Who wants to read the charge?
I'm happy to do it.
Go for it.
Description and purpose. The goal of the Lincolnville Board of Selectmen is to see that affordable broadband service of at least 100 megabits per second is available to all residents by means of a fiber to the home connection, with the goal of having the availability inside the home. Therefore, the Board of Selectmen, pursuant to the Town Charter Article 3, Section 3.01.c.4 and Article 4, Section 5.06.6.c, hereby create a broadband committee for the purpose of providing the Board of Selectmen with, number one, ongoing information regarding pros, cons, options, and costs involved in getting broadband service to unserved or underserved areas of town, and two, assistance with the broadband efforts, inquiries that the town or Board of Selectmen choose to pursue. Qualifications for membership: one, an interest in the stated purpose of the committee; two, a resident, either permanent or seasonal, of the town of Lincolnville; three, appointment by the Board of Selectmen. Membership: one or two members of the Board of Selectmen, A, and B, up to 8 members of the public. All members appointed to this committee shall be voting members, and all votes shall carry equal weight. Meetings. Meetings are to be publicly accessible, broadcast, and recorded. 2, meeting schedule and duration shall be determined by the committee's voting members. 3, all meetings shall be conducted following the town charter and the town of Lincolnville's committee roles and guidelines. Charge: 1, elect a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. 2, submit minutes of each meeting to the town office in a timely fashion for inclusion in the upcoming Board of Selectmen packet. 3, document what areas of town are currently served by broadband infrastructure and where gaps in service exist. Committee to define what is meant by served, in quotes, and, quote, fiber to the home, close quote. Suggested time frame for submission to the Board of Selectmen is 6 weeks after the first broadband committee meeting. So that would be around the 1st of July. 4, define the character of connectivity within our town. 5, identify any municipal procedures, policies, rules, or ordinances that have the effect of delaying or increasing the cost of broadband infrastructure deployment. Suggested time frame for submission to the Board of Selectmen, 9 weeks after the first broadband committee meeting. 6, identify any actions the town might take to advance the provision of broadband service to unserved or underserved areas. Suggested time frame for submission of this item to the Board of Selectmen is 12 weeks after the first broadband committee meeting. 7, coordinate education and outreach regarding broadband expansion. Play a key role in communicating the broadband goals of the Board of Selectmen. 8, make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen as to what course of action the committee believes is in the best interest of the town as a whole. Suggested time frame for submission to the Board of Selection is 18 weeks after the first broadband committee meeting. 9, regularly include status updates in Board of Selectmen packets, including anticipated or invited guests to broadband committee meetings. 10, determine the concrete reality of funding agencies' ability to fund municipalities given duplicating infrastructure. Suggested time frame for submission to the Board of Selectmen of this item, 18 weeks after the first broadband committee meeting. 11, run transparent financial projections for potential funding paths developing a clear model for the Board of Selectmen. Suggested time frame for submission to the Board of Selectmen, 18 weeks after the first Broadband Committee meeting. Timeline. Unless the committee identifies a critical time element, such as a grant deadline, we establish that the deadline for completing this work and making a final recommendation to the board as September 10th, 2021. Unless the charge or timeline is amended by board action, this ad hoc committee shall be disbanded as of September 30, 2021.
Oof.
Geez,
Well
not much to
done.
do there, huh?
So it's a good thing we read that, because I think one of the things clearly is we have to write down these dates that are in here, which I didn't fully, like realize about what we're supposed to do, because this is a pretty brisk schedule.
It
Yeah.
is. Now the dates, I'm sorry. I was gonna say the dates are not, they're flexible to the extent that if we can move them around a little bit, but not much. Basically, that's it. And so there's not a lot of wiggle room.
So maybe we should write these down first.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good idea, just so we get actual dates associated with this?
Sure.
I do, I agree with that. And as far as, so the timing goes from the date of our first meeting, that is today, but we might want to work backwards and say September 10th is a deadline for several of these items, and then come back so many weeks and come back so many weeks. So maybe that way.
Well, I'm willing to do the reading if somebody else does the calendar calculation.
You've already done a lot. Well, we've got one. Number 3 is around 7.1, you said?
And number 3, document the areas of the town currently served. So that mapping is due 6 weeks after the first broadband committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that July 1st or July? What do you think?
Yeah. Around July 1st. Yeah. I think we can be kind of approximate. Yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
So
that's
July
the first
1st, then add for number 5, we're going to add 3 weeks to July 1st and come up with the 3rd week in July for number 5, right?
Which is the municipal procedures, policies, or ordinances that have the effect of delaying or increasing the cost.
Yes, and that is so 7 plus 21, 722.
So for that one, we would have to know what the municipal rules are that we're talking about.
Yeah, and just a little context background. Some of this stuff is from the first charge that the Broadband Committee had, which is available for anybody's review, and some of those things didn't make it into our final report to the select board, and the select board is asking for some of that information again. And so, regarding number 5, municipal procedures, the initial broadband committee already did the research in that. We found, and we went through all the ordinances and what we thought were all the relevant documents. We came up with a finding that everything was fine, but we didn't include it in our final report. Hence, it's being asked for again.
Okay, so you're saying item 5 doesn't require new work?
Not much. It requires it requires a couple hours in the town office, or just somebody going through the land use ordinances and a few other ordinances, maybe making a few phone calls. What we were able to find, the only thing we were able to find was the contract between the town and Lincolnville LCI about the cable communications contract, which was required at the time. That municipalities have a contract with cable companies that they provide certain service level of service, but it did not relate to broadband, just cable. So we couldn't find anything. Yeah.
I was just thinking of this. So 18 weeks is about is that about 4.5 months, roughly? 16 and 2 more.
Yeah,
Okay. And September 10th is our final suggested due date. So let me call that the middle of September and then walk back 4.5 months. And I think that puts us, we should have started this at the beginning of May, like 2 weeks ago.
okay,
So we have to just adjust a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. We're actually pretty close. Usually the wheels don't turn that smoothly. We're good. We're doing well.
They may not.
Yeah. So if number 5 is 7/22, then we add 3 weeks to 21 days to 7/22, right?
You're on number 5?
Yeah, number 5 is 9 weeks after today.
Right.
And if 6 weeks after today is 7/1, then we're going to add 21 days to that and come up with 7/22.
Right.
Okay. And so with number
Okay.
8.
So number 6.
Oh, number 6, excuse me. Yeah.
Number 6 is 12 weeks, so it's a further 3 weeks after 7/22.
Yep. So 21 days so there's more or less 8 days in July.
So that's like August 15.
Okay. 8, 5.
No. Is that right? Yeah, August. It's 3 more weeks. August 15.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's charge 6, which is actions the town might take to advance the provision of broadband service to unserved or underserved.
Mm-hmm. All the possible options, all the possible courses of action. And then we are required or asked to, in number 8, so a few weeks, 6 weeks later, narrow that down to 1 that we recommend. As a
So that's the final date. That's the September 10th or so.
I assume number 8, 18 weeks is around September 10th. But John, we may be 2 weeks off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
And that's the same point at which we're supposed to have done charge number 11, which is the financial.
Number 8 and 11 is going to be basically middle of September, 9/10. Could be the last week of September, hours before our expiration date, right? Maybe something like that. Okay. Well, I don't know. This seems kind of doable because we've already had a broadband committee do a lot of this initial work. And I don't want to speak for that committee. A couple of you guys were already on it. And so you may remember we did come up with some courses of possible options, courses of actions. We identified some of those. And so in my opinion, you guys, I don't know what the committee feels like, but our time might be better served not to re-examine all of those options again by interviewing people. At the time, we were all kind of novices, at least I was, in terms of what the landscape was. And we just did a lot of surveying, getting opinions from all of these different people. Finally figured out, well, there's a few things that are available to us. We made a recommendation. So I was thinking, and let me know if this is totally off base, if we could kind of get to the schedule, meet the schedule by starting out with identifying possible courses of action, and then working through those throughout up until September.
So Mike, that's like starting on number 11. Well, that's the financial projections, but developing clear models for the BOS, is that sort of?
No, it would actually be starting with number 6, identify
Number
any
6.
actions the town might take to advance the provision of broadband. Those are, the way I read that, those are all the possible options that the town might take. We are asked to, in number 8, say make a recommendation as to the best course of action. So we need to identify all the possibilities, discount those, have one elevate to the top, as it were, and flesh that recommendation and flesh the denials or the elimination of other options with some of the other criteria listed in the charges, like financial viability of pursuing this path rather than that path. I would guess. Or does it even reach the home, or that type of thing? Is it affordable? Does it meet the purpose of the mission? That type of thing. So if we were to start out with that, we've already identified what some of the options are. And even though the landscape's changing fast and it may change into totally something different in the next couple of months, we'd still at least start with something, you know?
So fill me in, since I'm starting from nowhere. Was there a coverage survey, a needs analysis done for the town for this?
There was, if you want to tell, I don't know if it would rise to a needs analysis coverage survey, but there was a survey done of Lincolnville residents about asking questions about their service, what kind of service they had, what kind of service they would like to have.
Right, I think I might have received one
You
of
may
these.
have received that. It was it went out in some Google form by email, and it also was mailed to homes. So we have that, and I can't remember the number of respondents. It was actually like a 25-30% rate of response, I think. Is that basically what we got? It was not bad.
Yeah. We had about 400 responses.
Okay. Yeah. So,
And by the way, does everyone should have the report from the first broadband committee, the full report? If you don't, we should send that to you, which I'm Mike, I have it here, although you might have it and can also
I have
send
it as well, and it should be available on the town website, but that's never guaranteed. So we should make sure to send it to each other.
Yeah.
Amongst ourselves. Yeah.
Okay, and does that report have the results of that survey?
It does.
Yes,
It's
excellent.
a law. As a matter of fact, it's quite the survey is quite long because it includes everyone's every respondent was given the opportunity to add comments, and every comment is listed rather than we did all the statistical data, but then we just listed all the comments, and it makes for good reading. But the report is also available too, and we should just send that around so we can see what's happened in the past.
I am happy to send it right this minute. I have everyone's email from one of David Kinney's emails to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just send it right this minute via email. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I just found it in my files. And it is off to you now. Now, as Mike said, it's quite long, and it has a lot of appendices, which include the results of the town survey. I actually think, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I have a feeling that we actually included a great deal of detail on that, like virtually every single comment we got verbatim.
We did, yes.
So it's a very detailed document, but as I say, the body of it is relatively short. The appendices are very long.
Yes.
So will that effectively cover item 3 of the charge?
I would say no. Just because, for a couple of reasons. And I'm not speaking for the Board of Selectmen because I'm on the Select Board, but I just want to get up front right away. I don't want to ever be interpreted as speaking for the Board of Selectmen, okay? Maybe provide a little insight as to what I, as a select person, might want to hear from this board, but that's about it. And what I understand may have gone down at a select board meeting, but not speaking for them. The select board was interested in what it really did mean by getting to the home. That is, is it the wires going to the living room, or is it the wire going to the outside of the house, or is it the wire going to the pole on the road, on the other side of the road outside the house? Okay, they wanted that, they needed that nailed down. And there's interest in nailing that down, therefore defining what that fiber to the home is. Okay, so we need to do that. It hadn't been done really. We also, and the idea of what level being served is, what is an underserved, what is served. If the FCC has their definitions, standards of it, but I'm not so sure that it's really helping the select board very much right now. So it's more availability service. What kind of service we might expect a broadband program to provide. That's all. So I don't know, Jay, did that answer your question, or did I just kind of confuse the issue?
I just was going to say, just from hearing the question and the answer,
Yeah.
There have been updates to the availability of internet due to that grant that LCI got from, I forget where, Connect Maine.
Yeah.
So more people are being served by, LCI now. I don't know how many, but that did happen.
Sure. Yeah.
So
So it's changed, no question. Yeah.
So is that information that I would think must be fairly public because it's a grant available from LCI?
Well, that will be
That's
interesting.
kind of an adversarial relationship I would think we would have, but anyway.
No, I wouldn't characterize it as adversarial in any way, really.
Okay.
No, LCI has been to and talked met with the select board a couple of times since the last broadband committee got disbanded, and they let us know some of the coverage, well, maybe all of the coverage in a lot of detail of that they had done through. They did this winter when they received a large grant from not the first round of the American Recovery money.
Right.
Okay, and what more needed to be done. So they provided a lot of data. They have that, and they're more than willing to share that with us. We just need to approach them and get that and ask them for that. So, I feel more comfortable. You can go back to the recorded Board of Selectmen meetings and look at their presentation, but I'd be a lot more comfortable actually getting documents from them rather than going with that information, because some of the numbers may have changed. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the data collection we've got to do. Yeah. And
so that's probably the most definitive source of current coverage.
Yes. Yeah, it would be. And yeah. Stephen, you're probably aware of the importance of accurate mapping and inaccurate mapping, how that plays in so much to funding and everything like that. So there's always, whatever data we get with maps, we're going to have a grain of salt next to it, I'm sure, Yeah. But I think that's the best we're going to do, Yeah. Unless, Stephen, are you guys aware of another source of?
No, you put your finger on it. Of the many sort of really contentious issues out there is mapping, because number one, the state of Maine has just and joined many, more than 24 other states, disagreeing with the FCC's definition of adequate service. So mapping is, doesn't sound like it's controversial, but it's extremely controversial.
Yeah.
So, because it depends on your definition of what is adequate service.
Mhm.
And number two, and this is why, as you say, Mike, it was a big issue in the last incarnation of our committee, is that, and Gina, I see you've joined us. I don't remember, were you on our committee before too? Yes. So you and Cheryl and Mike and I were all on it before, and I think you may remember, past is again another one of those controversial words. If it run, like in my case, it runs down 235. I live on McGonagall on 230 off 235. So the fiber runs down 235, but I had to pay $3,000 to get it to 400 feet down my driveway. So does that mean my home was passed? And does that mean that everybody in Lincolnville who lives off a main road like 235 or Youngtown or whatever it is should pay the $3,000 to have the fiber brought to their home? Do we think that's adequate service? So again, this is one of those things that is going to be very controversial. The mapping that the Midcoast, that MIC has said we're going to do corresponds to what Maine Broadband is doing, which eventually is, frankly, to create a house by house map of every town based on each location doing its own reporting. And whenever you use the Maine Broadband Connect tool on their website, it automatically records your location.
Right.
And I wish there was a chat box in this meeting setup, because there isn't, and I could have put the last broadband report into that. I hope, by the way, you all got it. If you didn't get it, I did send it already via email. So if anyone didn't get it, do let me know. But the same is true with this mapping tool. So the mapping tool that's being used by the Maine Broadband organization is what the Midcoast group is also going to be using for all of its towns. And by the way, just to correct one of the points that David made about the Midcoast Internet Consortium, which as Mike said, I am one of two Lincolnville reps to, and have been spending an enormous amount of time on. Probably 20 hours a week for the last 4 weeks. So there's a lot of meat there to talk about. But right now, the consortium has about 12 towns who are considering participating, which would make it by far and away the largest multi-town consortium in Maine and probably in the United States. So we've got, besides the ones that he mentioned, there are 12 towns now. It's only on the warrant in Camden and Rockport on June 8th. But then it is going to be many other towns after that. And we have, one of the issues we have to decide is whether we will be one of those towns, when we will be on the calendar. But each of those towns, which include Owl's Head, South Thomaston, Thomaston, Hope, Searsmont, Northport, Lincolnville, Camden, Rockland, Rockport, Union. So there are now 12 towns that are in the discussion. I emphasize they're only in the information group at this point. So when we have consortium meetings, there are like 50 people there, of which I'm one of the Lincolnville ones, but from all those towns. So that's different than the people who've agreed to be in what is the official document, which is called an interlocal agreement. So when you actually decide to pay your money and sign the agreement, what you're doing is you're signing on to what's called the interlocal agreement. So only 2 towns have so far agreed to do that, or have on the June 8th ballot to do that, Camden and Rockport. But anyway, I didn't mean to go far off the subject here about mapping, but it's one of the key issues about what does it mean to be covered.
Sure.
Has the committee you're talking about, Steve, I mean, you mentioned cost, $3,000, for instance. Can you just let the cost define accessibility? So maybe in one town to go 400 feet, it's $500. Another town, it's $10,000. So same distance, but different accessibility. So use that as a metric.
Well, no, because the who the ISP is determines the cost. So LCI in Lincolnville charged me that amount for my house. Spectrum in Rockland for the same 400 feet would charge an entirely different amount.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right, what is affordable obviously is variable, but the price even for the same distance is different based on who the company is who's billing it out, because Spectrum's costs are different than LCI's.
I see. So that's a good metric to say what's accessible and isn't. It depends on the company and the distance. And it varies from region to region.
Yeah, it varies from ISP to ISP within our area. And LCI, as you know, covers more than Lincolnville. LCI also works in Northport, also works in Hope, also works in a little bit of Searsmont.
Okay.
You're actually far flung. They're down in Bremen and Bristol, I think.
Well, but I mean in these towns.
In our area, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, look, we should probably in this first meeting establish a chairperson and a secretary and a vice chair, so we can get started on that. Does anybody want to volunteer to do that?
I volunteer Mike Ray as the chair.
Well, yeah. Well, I would rather decline for a reason is that I'm on the select board right now, and I've got time to do this, and it'd be kind of fun. But I would hate to be accused of injecting select board preferences or anything like that. You know, nobody steps up, I'll do it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I would normally step up, but I am involved with the Recreation Commission, and not only am I the chair now, I am also the secretary.
Oh,
and
good for you. Congratulations.
It's not, I don't know what's going to happen to that committee because I'm also on the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. And I'm sure that there are going to be changes in our town because of the changes that are happening. So but again, I'm super involved in too many things to try to help out here. But I mean, I'm willing to do things, but I just can't commit to any monthly or weekly or whatever reporting.
I understand. I'd be happy to. Last time I took the minutes and got those into the town office, and also was tried to get information out to committee members.
That's awesome. That's a big thing.
And I'd be happy to do that again, even though I've been chastised as a minute taker that I did a poor job. So the minutes might look a little different this time than what I thought were stellar minutes of last time, but there you go. Everybody's a critic. But anyway, so I'd be happy to do that, but it'd be kind of cool if we could have somebody who's not on the select board step up, Otherwise, I kind of feel as if this committee might be, if not steered by that body, and I'd hate to have that hanging over anybody's head or anything like that.
I see Steve shaking his head, but I'd love to see him do it.
You're busy.
Chair.
He's busy. Yeah. Well, what the chair might involve, the way I see it, it doesn't involve a whole heck of a lot. I mean,
just running the meeting.
Yeah, and it's getting the person who is responsible for getting the agenda for the next meeting out.
Yeah.
And if we could simplify that job a lot, if we have pretty much standing agenda items, it's kind of like, well, not a lot of creativity necessary in that. And maybe being that person who, if we want to have somebody come in and speak to us, that person who makes the phone call, and that person being in touch with the town office for whatever, and if that's necessary, that type of thing. But and the vice chair is that person who takes over the job if the chair breaks a leg, so it's more of a facilitator than anything else.
Mhm.
I kind of get bored hearing myself talk, so that's another reason. And I know I'm boring others, so that's kind of why I'm begging out, And,
Well, I've never chaired anything, and I feel like I'm coming in from the hinterland on this, but as a vice chairman, might be comfortable, but.
Oh, that is the plum job, isn't it? Yeah.
That's as far as I'll go.
Well, we got a vice chair, we got a secretary. So unless somebody else wants to take minutes. You probably don't, do you, Steve? Yeah. Okay. So, no, like I said, if nobody wants to do it, I'll do it. No problem.
If we don't get a chairman, then those duties fall on the vice chairman.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I got it. That's how I ended up chair of the rec commission. So
everybody else just took a step backwards here.
Yeah.
Well, look, why don't I'll take it up if you guys, and at any point, if anybody wants to topple me, please feel free. Okay, that's fine with everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to take it and give me a little coaching on being the vice chair, maybe I can help
Well,
out.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know how you learn, but I would suggest, Jay, you might want to watch me, then do the opposite.
Yeah.
Do what I don't do, and then that'll probably get you there.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So tell you what, I will talk for a while then, if you don't mind. Anticipating that something like this might happen, I wrote down some notes. And they have to do with how we might want to structure the meetings, because we have carte blanche there, okay? We don't have to pay attention to Robert's rules or anything else. Well, a few things we have to pay attention to, like common decency and accessibility to the public. And prompt and reporting to the select board per the charge, and keeping them in the loop. But as far as making decisions, it can be by consensus, it can be by vote, it can be how we feel at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. And this is what you all are comfortable with. You comfortable with having a roll call vote for each issue that seems to call for a vote, or do just a general nodding of heads when that seems appropriate work, and then maybe if there's a yelling match, a vote would be necessary? Something, rules like that. Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of consensus. How's that?
sounds
Okay,
good.
but we do have to, but like Stephen is doing, we do have to move our heads and indicate, that. And yeah. Okay, so in terms of how the meeting might go, I've been doing Zoom for a while with this and that, and I don't know if I'm of the wrong generation or I have the wrong brain structure, but I can't function well in a group, or a Zoom group, with panelists or people raising their hands and people injecting comments from the public. Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about? When a little bubble will come up, it'll be typed out. Somebody has a comment, I tend to think that this is almost tantamount to talking in the back of the class while the discussion's going on. However, everybody has the right and to who's watching this has the right to chime in, right? I mean, these are open public meetings. So I would suggest that there a standing agenda item be in the beginning of the meeting. There's a citizens forum where
Yeah.
anybody who wants to talk, however they talk by Zoom, does just that. Can speak, not and then perhaps at the end of the meeting, right before we adjourn, there's also a public discussion. But during the agenda items, we keep the discussion to ourselves. Does that seem too draconian?
Yeah.
I think that would work. If we also, just depending on the agenda and the flow of the agenda, you could inject another public comment. You know, you could have 1, 2, 3 of them, just depending on the agenda.
What we could do, John, is what for each agenda item, each thing after or at some point during our discussion, open it up to comments just on that agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if there's nothing, there's nothing. If there is, we work with it.
yeah.
I think, yeah. So let's try something like that, okay? And well, I was kind of hoping that along those lines that if people are comfortable, if everybody's comfortable being celebrities, that we advertise our meetings. It will be advertised by the town website. It's the charter requires that, right? So we have to be a public gathering of people, and that's with advance notice. But I mean, I'm talking about trying to get people interested and on board by putting it on the Google group or Lincolnville discussion board and stuff like that, advertising it ahead of time.
Yeah, the Facebook groups are really big too. I see a lot of stuff on Lincolnville News on Facebook. I mean, one night there was a commotion in Lincolnville with a noise issue, and there were so many people. I mean, it must have been 80 people that came on there out of the 400 members to comment on it. It was just sudden. Everybody went on and said, "Did everybody hear that?" So I think it's got a lot of members of the community involved in that one. I think it's called Lincolnville News.
I see. I don't know. I'm
Yeah. But I think Josh uses it a lot to communicate
Okay.
About the broadband things,
Well,
and Jordan too.
okay, I'll talk with Josh and Jordan, see what they did and see if we can try to duplicate that.
Yeah, it just pops up a lot on my Facebook feed, so I
Okay,
think that's a good thing.
Gina, did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, I agree with Cheryl. It's on Facebook and I think it's Lincolnville News.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'll talk.
I use it all the time too.
Oh yeah, and that's different than the Lincolnville Google group, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a Facebook thing, right?
It's Facebook. Clearly Facebook. It's a.
Okay.
Is it a group or is it I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a page. It's a group. So you have to join it. But there's a lot. It must be like 400, I think, last I looked, which is a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be good if we could get people who are at least who are following our discussions.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, some sort of the select board would like us to be an arm of education, right?
Right.
And I don't want to say marketing, but education. Yeah.
Lincolnville Maine News, I'm on it, has 978 members.
What's it called?
Lincolnville Maine News
Okay.
on Facebook. It has 978 members.
Wow. Okay. Better than 400.
So that must be more than half the town.
Mm-hmm.
So would anybody feel would like to volunteer to be that person who puts the notices up of future meetings? Cheryl, you kind of know that that might dovetail into being the press agent for the whole
Well,
group, right?
only because I am always on that stupid social network. So yeah,
Like doing penance, right? Yeah, okay.
yep. Somebody has to communicate to me clearly what we
Yeah.
need to be putting on there, and I would
Yes.
be more than happy to do that.
I will take that on, okay?
Okay.
And yeah, and I'll get that to you when our next meeting is and the agenda, or at least links to the agenda, that type of stuff, right?
That and encouraging people to participate, to
Yes, yeah.
listen to the Zoom, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. good.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. And people post all the time. Like, 3 hours ago, there was a lost dog on 235 in Moody Mountain Road.
Oh, I saw that this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, that's good because I don't do Facebook
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't know.
or any other
978,
social media.
978 people in Lincolnville do. So that's a good
Yeah,
number.
good.
It's a lot of people. I mean, a few of those people might not be, here locally, but they have an interest in Lincolnville. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I'll try to do, Cheryl, is you gather some information as that could be included as links.
Yeah.
To that, like maybe our old report or something like that, and then I'll survey or whatever, and then also let you know when the agendas are, the next meetings are, things like that.
Excellent.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Well, one suggestion I would make, Mike, is particularly given what we came up with as the calendar of work, we should probably decide when our meetings are going to be.
Yes.
And that could be that calendar could be put on this on the Facebook page
Sure.
as like one of the first. So like one of the first communications from the Lincolnville Broadband Committee 2.0 could be who's on it, and when our next meetings are. And all of you are invited to join, and this is how you do it. So we should probably calendar our meetings.
Yeah, but no, that's a great idea. Last broadband committee we met every two. Do we meet every 2 weeks or every once a month? I can't.
Often we met every 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember, but
Tina, was it 2 or was it monthly?
It
Well,
was
I can't-
monthly in the beginning.
yeah, but now we have such a short window.
We do. Yeah.
Although, unfortunately, it's also summer.
Yeah.
But we're all volunteers for the town of Lincolnville. We're martyrs to the cause apparently. So we don't have a choice.
The other thing is, what if we met? I mean, I guess you can't open it to the public and meet outside. I don't know.
We may be able to meet at the town office because they have to be recorded and.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
so we could the town office on the 24th could be opening up for
great.
various mandates.
That would be great.
Yeah, so that otherwise I don't see how we could record it.
So,
Otherwise-
Mike, if that's the case, Mike, before we set a calendar, do we need to ask David Kinney so we're coordinated because we can't all use the space at the same time?
Yeah.
So
We would have to find a day that we could do that or a time we could do that. But in terms of assuming that there is such a time, would you feel comfortable meeting twice a week, every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, yeah.
The only reason I say that is because it looks like there's a lot of work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Gina?
it's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. Jay?
Yeah, sure. Midweek.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We probably should find a day that works best. I mean, there are certain days, the first, oh Christ, no, the second and the fourth Monday at 6 p.m. I can't do it. I know that because the select board meets. Conservation committee meets once a month, but we just kind of make that up as we go along, so that doesn't really matter. But there's got to be conflicting schedules. I mean, we got to come up with a day,
Well, I think we have to come up with an ask, and then you'll have to coordinate that because if us guessing, there are so many committees, most of which Cheryl is on, it seems.
Yeah. Well, I think Cheryl and John, you guys have the record. I think you have, yeah.
No, there's a few other people in town who have some pretty good track records for being on a lot of committees.
Well, okay, but Cheryl and John, just to get started, are you on any committees that have standing meetings that would be using the town office?
Well, I know of the Lakes and Ponds is the third Tuesday,
Second or third
fourth
Tuesday every
Tuesday,
month.
fourth or third, but that's a set meeting. That without question, it happens. And again, I don't know if they're going to meet at the town hall or not, though. So, I mean, I would be willing to step down from that committee. They just got 2 new members, and so there's like 14 of them. I mean, there's a lot of people on that committee.
Yeah, I just went on. So
Oh, there you go.
So you can jump off.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. I love the people on that committee. I mean, I enjoy the meetings. They're wonderful. And they do a lot of good things. So, but again, if I'm not needed there, I can always step down from that one.
Yeah, but Cheryl, there's nothing more satisfying than, cutting down Phragmites and, the height of July heat and humidity. I mean,
I have to admit, I did not go cut down Phragmites, but I did do other volunteer work for that committee.
yeah, that was, I happened to, get roped into doing that on the 2 hottest days of the summer, I think. But it was amazing, yeah. We were wearing masks and all 6 feet apart, the whole 9 yards, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So that, and the rec commission that I'm on, there's only 3 of us, and we're very flexible on when we meet, so that's not an issue. And the conservation, what is it called now? I'm getting tired. Comprehensive Plan Committee has not met yet, so I have no idea.
Right, yeah. Well, how about I do this? I'll get with David because he knows the schedule. He's got the calendar, and I'll ask him for a few open times, dates, or days, right? Yeah. And we'll try to get a many, and then I'll email them around. We'll email around the group and try to come up with one that works for everyone.
Yeah.
And are these going to be evening? Are we going to meet evenings or I don't know who has jobs to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I like to work. I like to work when I can, and I like to be away from the computer when I can. So evenings work better for me. But
yeah, I work some days now, so that would be an issue, depending on the day, I guess, though.
Okay. Yeah, and the only thing I have to do is the school committee, and that's the first Monday. But I think that overlaps with you, Mike. That
right.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm open with that overlap.
Gina, I heard you say something.
Yeah, I get up very early, like 4 a.m. to go to work, and so this time of day I get really quiet.
So you'd rather not have any long meetings starting at 9 p.m., right? Yeah.
Right.
Because I usually go to bed at 8:30.
Good for you. Well, so how about it would 6 p.m. like this time? Is that too late?
It's okay, but I get quiet.
I don't blame you. Well, we could try to do it earlier. I'll ask David to do 5 p. Dates from 5 around starting 5 or 6. How's that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see what we can do. And I'm sure he's been doing this for 20 years, so he'll come up with something and we'll do it around here.
Yeah. So Mike, so the things I'm really looking forward to being able to read is the report from the previous committee and the LCI documents and maps.
Okay.
Yeah, if I had those 2 things, I mean, I could catch up with all the rest of you guys.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get those maps, the current ones from LCI. Another thing you could do, John, but you shouldn't have to, would be to go to, and I'll send you the link to the date for the select board meetings, which we had like in the last couple months or so, where LCI presented and they did a PowerPoint presentation with their maps.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's.
I would like those dates too.
Okay, yeah, I'll find that out. It's someplace in the packets back there. And I'll find that one that is, and you guys can also watch this PowerPoint presentation. It's on
that'd be
YouTube
good.
channel, you know.
Mhm.
And then I'll also try to get the actual. Actually, I have those files. I'll send the dates to you and the files that he sent to us. They're files that I've been unable to open because they're digital maps and they're way too
Right.
complicated for whatever computer I have. I can't remember what kind of files they are, but I will send them to you and you might be able to make sense of them.
Yeah. See, Mike, this is just an aside, but wouldn't it be nice if all the BOS agendas were searchable?
Yeah, yes, it would.
Yeah. So you don't have to page through all of this. I've slogged through some of those looking for what what's of interest to me at the moment. It's
John,
awful.
you and I could get together and we could talk for hours or about the town website and the searchability or lack thereof, or how intuitive, or all of that stuff. Yeah,
I was
but yeah,
gonna
that would
ask-
be nice. Yeah.
I was gonna ask Jay, so you're a software developer. Do you do, what do they call it, like Beautiful Soup, and do you do all searching websites and like with make your own bots?
Sorry, I'm still working full time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the town website. From what I know about it, I think I'm speaking accurately. Is that Lincolnville contracts with one of, I think there's two maybe companies nationally that specialize in doing website templates for municipality governments, town governments, and then I think there are a couple packages, tiers that you can buy, and just the tier that the one that we have that's it's budgeted and approved ain't the highest tier, and it's not the prettiest one, and there's only so much you can do with it, I believe. I don't know how. I think I don't think we have a lot of flexibility in what we can change and how it appears. But yeah, wouldn't that be nice? A searchable, yeah. But
Well, hopefully we can get some mapping out of some of the stuff we're doing for the
sure, yeah.
town coverage and that sort of thing.
I will get you guys the dates for the YouTube thing. You could probably find them before me just by going to the YouTube channel and scrolling a bit, or going to the town website and looking up. You got to go to a sidebar, to documents, to the plan, to select.
Yeah,
it's a horrible thing.
Agenda.
Yeah, but anyway, you'd find the agendas there, and just we're Alan Hinsey, and it'll say LCI presentation by Alan Hinsey, LCI.
Oh,
I'll get you the dates.
Well,
And then you can check them out.
if people go ferret around in there and they find some identify where relevant information resides, maybe we could send it out to each other.
Yeah, okay, that would be a nice thing. Yeah, I mean it would be great if people feel free. Steve, I think you sent a few things out earlier this afternoon. If people feel free to just send stuff out, which it could be. You can take it or leave it or spend as much time as
Yeah, I mean, if it's just links to the places on the town site, there's nothing that violates any public exposure. I wouldn't think. They're just links.
Well, it's one thing. I'll try to keep us to the best of my ability. I'll make sure that we're compliant.
Okay.
With whatever's going down. Yeah. Okay, here's what I wanted to get to. I wrote down some of what I think are in number 6, I believe it is, the possible courses of action that the town might take. The ones that evolved from the last select board meeting, or the last, broadband meeting, and have evolved because since that time, just as the landscapes has changed, everything's moving around. And I've got 6 possible options. Not all of them are great options, of course, and some of us all, we've got opinions as which might be the best and everything else. But we're due. I think we're bound by the charge to explore those options and present them and just look at them, analyze them, and then prioritize them and select and recommend one of them, something to that effect. So I was thinking it might, like I was saying earlier, it might save some time if we structure our meetings such, and this is that we have those courses of actions. There are 6 courses of actions that I can see. Each time, each meeting, we take those up. Perhaps every meeting, all 6 are discussed, or perhaps given time, we focus on one or something and try to see if that is a reasonable course of action we could recommend. How would we weight that as a plausible presentation to the select board? And we can try to evaluate them by whatever metrics we want. It could be by additional standards or additional charge items like financial feasibility or whatnot. Here are the courses of actions that I see that's available to the town of Lincolnville. Okay, do nothing, right? Don't do anything. Stay with LCI. Let LCI in the marketplace do what they do. Number 2 would be help LCI do what they want to do, expand coverage. Number 3 would be go with the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition regional utility. 4 would be go with there's a new West Waldo regional utility that it may be forming for the towns of Palermo, Liberty, and Knox, Freedom. I don't know, some of those towns out there. That may have advantages, but it's a and one would be and another one would be Starlink. Okay, working with Starlink, and the last one would be just a Lincolnville only town-owned municipal utility, similar to what Searsport is proposing right now, what Islesboro did, that type of thing, where Lincolnville would take it all upon itself to do it, and not work with others. Anyway, yeah, what? You're muted.
I had a question about that. So as far as putting up your own cables, I think I heard you say, can you just rent the utility poles, whoever owns the utility poles? How do you get up there?
That's one of the things we're gonna have to find out.
Oh.
And well, and some of us, may know the answers, and but we're gonna have to include it in our report. That's what I'm saying.
We do know the answer, because this was one of the things we looked at. So the poles are owned by CMP or LCI in some cases. They are not available to just anybody to use. They are privately owned, and you would have to pay for and contract for their use. And many of the conversations that have gone on with other municipalities in Maine, including one of the conversations that one of the options we're talking about in the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition, is some collaboration with CMP, who own by far and away the vast majority of poles, not only in Lincolnville, but also in the 9 to 12 towns that are currently part of this consortium. So that's one comment, just to answer that point. The other thing I want to say on the 6 options that Mike just laid out, which I think is an excellent way to organize the conversation, by the way, is that Starlink really is not part of the conversation in the sense that anybody on their own can do that at any time. So Starlink does not require any involvement by the town, because as with HughesNet or DirecTV, anybody tomorrow could become a Starlink customer. So it does not require any action on the part of the town. There's nothing preventing you from signing up tonight having them send you the kit in the mail, which they do. It's UPS or FedEx to your home. You open the box and you set it up. If you need to have professional help, like laying a cement foundation for a pole, you contract with that for that separately. The town is not involved. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing that right now. So I'm not sure Starlink is in the same category as these other things because they don't require any municipal action.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I can see it's not a, yeah, direct
Well,
effect,
actually,
but
I see. I'd like to do a devil advocate thing and say that it is possible that Starlink could be, because there's already, I've read articles saying that there have been towns that have approached and are looking at the possibility and approaching. I can't remember who runs it. The Starlink people that to work out municipal contracts with Starlink, where Starlink would provide the municipalities somehow with packages, as presumably at different rates. Okay, and I have no idea how that would work, but I think it's an option that we should look at. There's also the option, which is I don't think would work. 1,500 households, more or less, in Lincolnville. Somehow the town gives everybody, every household, $500 and says, have at it, have it. $750,000. It doesn't sound to me like it's very reasonable, but there you go. So I think it's an option. It may be one that we can move on from. I don't know, you know.
I would just want to think carefully about it, because you'd hate to go and have taxpayers one way or another spend a lot of money on poles, and then Starlink, and then, you know, comes on, and Amazon is also going to develop their own satellite system, and then people just abandon the cables. They just go satellite, and then all this money is spent and sitting out on the roads, and people aren't using it. So I just want to keep it in the mix, that we just keep that in mind, to not be embarrassed.
Kind of like the story of Wi-Fi versus Cat5 cabling inside a building.
Well, I don't know. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but my gut instinct is that we can keep things like this in the mix, in the conversation, if we divide our time and use it well. And for example, we may want to assign somebody to look into Starlink and nothing but. John, you might want to do that. I don't know. And set up a couple, or more than a few, or some parameters that it's necessary for you to answer, questions that you need to answer in your inquiry, right? And then report back. And Stephen, you could be the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition dude who it does that. That's just this one way we can, rather than spend a lot of time talking about Starlink, we can do the investigations while this is going on.
And the other aspect is we will define what the minimum definition of usable broadband is.
Yes.
I know it's increased lately from maybe 20 up to 100 as minimum download speed, but we haven't. And we've mentioned fiber optic, but there's also wireless, like Red Zone GWI. So the means of getting the broadband to the end user is still undefined, and in some sense. If you can do it with Starlink and meet the standards, that's one option. If you can do it by a tower on a hillside and cover a whole valley, that's another option. We don't know yet.
We don't know that. And but we also, and one of the things we have to consider, of course, is that this is will be a municipally driven, if not funded, operation.
Right.
And so to what extent is HughesNet or Red Zone or other, are they going to be able to scale up to serving the town of Lincolnville? Those are questions that we're going to have to provide to the select board. And so they can look at HughesNet or Starlink or whomever and say, I don't think that's going to work, guys, that type of thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Or-
well, I think the second item in your list there, help LCI, some sort of collaboration that might involve other entities than just LCI.
It might.
That's a general area of solution.
It just right. It just so happens that LCI is our incumbent, or
Right.
our major incumbent. There are a few people who have consolidated down on Route 1 towards Camden, right? And there are a few people who have Red Zone, HughesNet, whatever. But they're, by and large, it's LCI. Yeah. So I don't know. Would you guys? What do you think about? Like I said, looking at those options and then trying to take those on in each meeting. Does that make sense? We could have like 10, 15 minutes. So we don't want to spend, I don't want to spend my life doing this. Don't want to spend, the whole evening doing this. So I'm trying to figure out a way where we can, and we, like I said, we may like realize, well, this ain't going to work real fast, but we need to be able to say why it won't work.
What if we're planning on meeting twice a month? What if we do it at one of the meetings in the month?
Okay.
Just as sort of a medium ground,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Okay. So half of our meetings, you
You like it
basically
together.
have like 15 minutes per course of action, or 10 minutes per course of action. And there could be reports from Mid-Coast Internet Coalition on updates and explanation, things like that. John, you could, let's say if individuals want to like look at certain areas, John, you could report back on the viability of Starlink. Jay, you on, I'm just making this up, just what you just said, getting other local ISPs working together, perhaps in the town, working with them. How would that work? What would that look like?
Yeah.
But we have to remember that all of this is going to come down to what can be, like I said, driven and funded by and accepted by the taxpayers. So some of this stuff is economically, or just may not fit that. We don't know yet. We're gonna. That's one of the things we're gonna have to look at.
Well, we don't understand the economics yet.
Right.
Do we, based upon all this is a high area of flux now with federal and state and money coming in or potentially coming in. I don't know.
Well, let me just say on the Mid-Coast Consortium, which, by the way, I'm very happy to be I'm the obvious liaison person there since I was designated that by the town. So I'm happy to keep reporting. There's an enormous amount of work going on, as I told you. One of the central principles, and I'm happy to circulate the principles of the consortium, which might be interesting for everyone on our committee to have. But one of the guiding principles is no tax increase.
Right.
So the entire strategy for the Mid-Coast municipal utility, regional interconnect, would be no new taxes for any of the participating municipalities. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be, for example, a municipal revenue bond, but that is not supported by additional taxes. It's supported by fees paid to the consortium for use of the network. So a revenue bond is supported by revenue from the particular item. But that's an important thing to keep in mind with respect to the solution that's being developed by the MIC.
And that model on a smaller scale has already been done with Calais-Baileyville, for example. They
Right.
did pretty much the same. Where
Yeah.
they required, when I said taxpayer funded, I didn't mean to say that the taxpayer, there's going to be some involvement on the voters of Lincolnville
Oh, certainly.
allowing expending of funds, that type of thing.
Well, or the provision of a guarantee, or what's more likely, which is where this really goes, is making up the shortfall of a take rate objective that's not reached, because all of these financing structures, and I'm not yet confirmed, but I'll probably be the head of the finance committee for the Mid-Coast Internet Consortium. All of the financing stacks that we're looking at are obviously have assumptions about take rate.
Mhm.
And it's when you don't meet the take rate that you really get into trouble, because the revenue that is that supports the debt or whatever the financing is, makes a presumption about what take rate you're going to have. And in a place like Lincolnville, Lincolnville is one of the more complicated towns in this consortium, by the way, because of LCI, for a number of reasons. One is that LCI is one of the few ISPs that so far has said it would not participate in an open network. So, for example, if you built the network, places like GWI or Pioneer Broadband agree to compete to provide the operating ISP services like GWI provides in Islesboro, for instance. Islesboro is owned by the town, but operated by GWI. The analogy I use, which I already told Mike, is it's like the town owns the railroad track, but private railroad companies run the trains. So Boston and Maine Railroad or Union Pacific or Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe are separate railroad companies that run trains over one track, which is owned by everyone. Or you could also use the example of the sand and salt truck, the contractor sanding and salting town-owned or state-owned or county-owned, but publicly owned roads. The town of Lincolnville can change who the contractor is that it hires to salt the roads, but the town or some public entity, a combination usually, still owns the roads, not the private contractor. And that's the same idea here, that the public would own the track, that means the fiber, but a private company would operate it, okay? LCI so far has said it would not agree to bid for a contract against other private operators. That may change as the competitive landscape changes. I suspect it will, but that's been their going in presumption, which is one of the many reasons why Lincolnville in particular is different than the other towns that are in the consortium, because we have that complication.
And that will be something in our final at some point when we communicate with the select board. We're going to want to mention that.
Mhm.
Of course.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Steve, how does that impact the potential service? Say that Lincolnville did end up joining this Mid-Coast. How does that impact the potential service for people in Lincolnville if no one's going to provide the trains?
That's exactly the point, Cheryl. It's either or. So either Lincolnville, and this is why, frankly, our committee has a much more difficult and complicated job than some of the other towns. It's not all of the towns. So, for example, Rockland also has a complicated situation because they have Spectrum. Camden has Spectrum for part of Camden, but not all of it. But Rockland, and also Rockland is a totally different situation, because in many of these examples all over the country, which we've been studying and which I study at Brookings, when you have a very large percentage of business users, or at least a significant number of business users and residential users are very different when it comes to both the take rate and the price they're prepared to pay. Because obviously business users are prepared to pay a higher price, and it's essential to their operation. So in Rockland, which has a hell of a lot more businesses than Lincolnville, for example, you have a very different economic situation in terms of getting people to commit to use it and to pay for it. So, but the short answer to your question, Cheryl, is if Lincolnville were to join the regional utility, for example, which is Mike's choice number 3, then that would by definition mean LCI would either have to change its policy or would no longer be a service provider in Lincolnville.
Oh.
So it's a big point.
Mhm.
It is, yeah.
Now, frankly, to be honest, nobody believes that ultimately LCI will walk away from 80 years of investment in Lincolnville, and whatever the market share is, it's somewhere between 60 and 75%. That everyone believes that they will agree to participate. Also, by the way, they want to expand their market to some of these other towns. So there's no way for them to stay in business and maintain this point of view, but it is their point of view right this minute.
So could LCI do the Irving business model and just drop their price when the time is right and drive the corner gas station out of business?
Well, so
effectively, throw all our plans asunder because they just underbid it.
yeah, so that is one of the many issues that clearly we have to think about. The betting is, and this is another reason why the regional approach, makes Lincolnville stronger than going it alone. If it was Lincolnville alone, absolutely. We could get all the way up to the finish line, to the 1 yard line, and then LCI could decide, after we've spent all this time and money and energy and consultants and all of that stuff, they could say, okay, we'll do it for $70 instead of $89.99 or $89.95, which is what their rate is now.
Right.
Which is substantially higher than the national average and substantially higher than the state of Maine and substantially lower level of service. So they could say, okay, we fold, we'll do that. And then, and by the way, we're not going to do it right away. We'll do it over the course of the next 3 years. And whether they actually end up doing it over the course of the next 3 years is anybody's bet. If, on the other hand, we are part of the consortium, then we have a much stronger negotiating position, because then it's not just us, it's 30,000 people as opposed to 1,400 people, and a much bigger market. And what not to jump too far ahead, but what my own personal opinion as of this moment, before we all do all this work, is that the most desirable answer is to come up with a solution that makes it in LCI's interest financially to cooperate. In other words, they will make more money by bidding for one of the operating contracts, i.e. the one in Lincolnville, but do it at a price and at a level of service that is competitive with what other ISPs will be offering at other parts of the regional utility. So we do get the benefit of competition, but we don't have to deal with the negative side effect of losing our current service provider. So to me, the best possible scenario at the end of the day, is that LCI continues to be the provider, but on much better terms, both in terms of quality of service, speed, and price, and maybe, God only knows, even customer service.
Okay, so we should probably be wrapping this up pretty soon. Besides, Gina, I noticed you were getting pretty quiet there for a while. Is this going too long?
It's getting close.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to smell good smells from the other room too, so it's dinner time. Yeah. As far, if we were to end up the meetings with action items, stuff we say that we are going to do and commit ourselves to doing that, then we're gonna have a head start going into the next meeting, right? So this is what I said that I would do. I will get out the maps and the dates that those maps were presented in a slideshow thing, so you can see them on your screen or the Zoom screen or YouTube. Cheryl, I'll get first I'll talk with David and get a few dates and times, okay? And Gina will try to make them start at 5, if that works for everyone. Okay. Yeah, does that work? 5 o'clock? If we were to try to start with that, okay.
Yeah.
We'll try that.
Thank you.
And then I'll send those dates around and we'll try to see if we can just choose one by email before our next meeting. And then Cheryl, I'll get then when I find that stuff, I'll kind of make a little package of meeting times, links to documents for the public, and then you can put it on Lincolnville News or Lincolnville Facebook News or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably both the Facebook page and the Lincolnville News Group forum there.
Okay.
I usually post it on my Facebook wall.
Okay, great. This is good. Okay.
So if we all. do that,
And Mike, the report.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Maps and report. Yes.
Yeah, but you should already have gotten, I already
Yeah.
sent you during the course of this meeting, I hope you all got it, the report from Broadband Committee 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are you looking at it, John? I
I
haven't.
didn't receive it.
looking for it.
I sent
Yeah,
it.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Terrific.
So
Okay.
that also, as I said, has the appendices of the 400 odd people who, they weren't odd, they were our fellow citizens, who answered our survey.
Yes.
But I'll send a link, Cheryl, to you of that report so you can put it in your past, because I know you're going to want to, because you are now capital B, capital S press secretary, right? And so,
Sure.
yeah, so the responsibility to make it look good is on you. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll try to get you all the materials
Yep.
to make it look good. Yeah.
Yep.
So is everybody satisfied with the type of approach we do by having a conversation about possible courses of action, winnowing those down by analysis, and then doing final recommendations?
Mhm.
Gina?
I like that, and I also like that we're getting the public more time during our meetings to say something. I like that as well.
Yeah, and my guess is, Gina, that'll be kind of evolving how we do that,
And
so it may
how
be
much
awkward at first. Yeah,
communication
but
we have.
I'd really like to try. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
So on,
Yeah, go
excuse me,
ahead, Cheryl.
just quickly on the, where we are inviting people to make comments, that might be the appropriate time for I don't know if you're going to actually physically invite these people in, but you would have them writing the comments as a comment or a question, or I don't know how that exactly works, but I've seen it happen at the select board meetings.
I don't either. I'm sorry, John. Just let me jump in, John, real quick. I don't either. I've been on Zoom meetings, and I'm no Zoom expert at all, with the Maine Municipal Association League of Women Voters, where there's a third person who basically monitors comments.
Oh,
And every so often during the presentations, the speaker will say, hey, so what kind of comments are we getting in so far? And then they stop, take a break, read those, address those, and move on. And if we can make that happen throughout, great.
okay.
All I'm trying to do is try to avoid. I don't want to trivialize comments from public at all. Okay, but they're almost sometimes they're non sequiturs coming up. Okay, and to me, I have trouble. I love dealing in non sequiturs, but I have trouble when they're at me and trying to focus on a conversation as well.
Right.
Just as a mechanical item on Zoom, because I live on Zoom all
Okay.
day, all the time.
Okay.
And I teach, and my students at MIT, it's all. So David Kinney is the host of this meeting, for example, right now.
Yeah.
He has turned off the chat function,
Yes.
but he, as the host, still receives comments from those watching. And as you may have noticed in a Board of Selectmen meeting, he'll say, I have a comment from John Doe, and he says this. Okay. That's because he, as the host, has enabled the comment feature just for himself.
Mhm.
It is possible to enable the chat function for anybody, which means you can mute everyone but force them to make their comments only in writing in the chat. And somebody can call on them out of the chat and say, Joe Smith, I see your question, either empower him to ask the question or just go ahead and answer it.
Now, Stephen, is that, but would Joe Smith's question show up on the screen in chat? Or would,
Well, you can set it either way. You can set it so that only the host sees it.
that's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, that's what David Kinney does for the
Okay.
Board of Selectmen conversations that I have been in the audience of.
Okay, yeah, so what we'll do is the host, and it could be me, it could be, I don't know who it's gonna be. I don't want to try to tie down David to just turn on the meeting and come back and, doing what he's doing right now for every 2 weeks. Anyway, yeah. we may end up doing that.
It seems like it could be the vice chairman's job, for instance,
Ooh.
to keep
We were
track.
wondering what he did.
But Gina, are you volunteering to do that?
No, I'm telling you about my church Zoom. Everybody can chat, have a question or something in writing, and we can mute and unmute as we want to a degree, except for certain parts of it. But there's a lot of flexibility in the service.
Okay, yeah.
There's all
Well,
kinds of things.
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Might irritate a few people down while we're trying to figure it out. But
Might make some happy too.
yeah, but
Well,
Jay, it's nice to see that you volunteered to be that.
Geez,
John,
that's
Are we
the
talking about,
second thing I volunteered for, isn't it?
what are you trying to say?
are we talking about staying on Zoom or meeting in person? Zoom has a lot of advantages.
It does, and we'll see what options are available to us on the 24th. We may say, enough of Zoom, let's all go and meet in a room where we can get stuff done. I don't know, we'll figure that out.
Or
So,
one meeting in Zoom a month and one meeting in
Yeah,
the town
yeah.
hall.
Something like that, yeah, that might work too.
so do
But
we know the
but like I
date
said,
of
we do
our-
have to make sure that we're recorded.
Well, you can do both at the same time. You
Yeah.
can have a meeting in person and have it be on Zoom.
Well, I think
No,
that if I have my way, got the select board hat on now. I'd kind of like to make our select board meetings go that way in the future. And Stephen, you and I were talking about this, yeah. So you can have people do the hybrid thing. I think that's where it's
Right,
going.
that's a hybrid meeting, and at the library, we're thinking of doing that also for all
Yeah.
kinds of programs that are running on.
Yeah,
And you can't just hack together a system and have it convenient. Logitech has some nice products, so we're considering those things for the library. So like the knitting group, people in Arizona in the winter can join people in the library, that sort of thing.
well,
So
John,
that's a hybrid meeting. Yeah.
yeah, and who knows? We may, select board or town administrator, we may reach out to you, John, and say, how are you guys making this happen? Or Steve, you
Yeah.
make it, yeah. What kind of software, or hardware do you guys end up using? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's almost 8 o'clock, and 8 o'clock's a really good quitting time. Yeah.
Okay, so that was my last question.
Yeah.
Are we gonna is our policy gonna be no more than 2 hours?
I think that's a good policy. I like that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a problem? Gina, no, you would like to keep going, wouldn't you, Gina? Because, yeah. Um,
So is the time of our next meeting, which is going to be what, in 2 weeks? Is that Is that dependent upon what you find out for the schedule with the town office?
Yeah,
Or
it,
or
yeah,
will it be
it
another
will.
Zoom
And
meeting?
yes, it will, Jay. And I'll call David tomorrow and we'll try to iron that out and get it some, options and get that out to you by tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Great.
And then we could bounce that around and hopefully come up with one. And hopefully,
Okay,
Gina, it will
sounds
be
good.
closer to 5 than 6, okay?
Be really lovely.
Hey, I think we can go eat.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Excellent.
Well,
Hey,
hey,
good to meet everybody.
thanks everybody for showing up.
Nice to see y'all.
Okay,
Sounds
Okay.
good.
and
Yep.
I've got your emails and I will get stuff to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
good
Okay.
meeting.
Good.
Bye.
Night,
All right. Oh, David's gonna shut us off, right? So there you go. Okay,
eventually.
yeah, so I'll email him and tell him he can shut us off.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, good night. See you later, Cheryl. Okay, how do I quit? Leave. David, we're done. David. So. Oh. David, this is Mike. Hey, I tried to send you a text message to let you know that we are done with the broadband committee. If you, so you wouldn't have to keep looking at the screen, because I know. But I ended up hitting the wrong button and calling you instead. I'm sorry, but we're done. Oh, geez, is this David Kinney? Well, you sounded like him at first, I'll tell you. I'm sorry about that. Well, that's, I don't know how, I don't know. yeah, I know, yeah. Well, he'll figure, don't worry, he'll figure it out. Okay, well, I'll remove you from that button there, that contact list buttons. I don't know how I got the number, but sorry. Okay, well, there we go. Okay, well, hey, you have a good evening. Yeah, bye.